Hey there, Drawyah here, and welcome to this video where we shall take a look at the three main flight simulator platforms on the market, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Prepar3D and X-Plane 11, and compare them with one another to see which really is the ultimate flight simulator platform right now in the market. With the three different platforms at very different stages of maturity since their respective releases, it will certainly be interesting to see which one stands out as the best right now. We will be drawing this comparison on 11 different factors. These will be the aircraft variety, aircraft quality, worldwide scenery, airport environments, the sky environment, the night environment, simulator stability and optimizations, simulator modability, extra features they come with, the flight dynamics, and finally, the minimum system requirements spec across all platforms. I'm sure that there are many other factors too they could cover in this which I won't go into, and perhaps you may even disagree with what I may say on this, but you are certainly free to discuss all down in the comments below. And now, without any further delay, let's get right into this. First, we will take a look at the variety of aircraft that come with each platform. X-Plane by default has 22 different vehicles for you to choose from, including a range of general aviation, jetliners, a glider, and a helo. This is a nice number to have, giving you a full range to choose from commercial to lighter options. Microsoft Flight Simulator on the standard version gives you a total of 20 vehicles to choose from, and this goes up to 30 with the Premium Deluxe release. You have a mix of general aviation and jetliner options to choose from, but no gliders and helicopters just yet in the listing, but time will only tell as the platform goes further into development. Prepar3D, however, gives you a whole lot more. There may not be passenger jetliner offerings which to some makes or breaks this category, but what you do get are 25 aircraft, 10 helicopters, 3 avatars, 2 submarines, and even an unmanned drone. That's a total of 41 different loadable vehicles, and not just the ones that fly. Prepar3D is sold as a much more in-depth training platform, and so having this variety does certainly help in giving customers the most complete range of training options to choose from, giving it the first point of our comparison. Next we have the quality of default aircraft within each platform. Microsoft Flight Simulator, being the newcomer to the simulation scene, does have some limitations at this stage what aircraft can and can't do. That means some flight management systems are not yet up to scratch or just don't function at all. There are mods out there that certainly help with these, such as the Flyby A320X or working title CJ4, but if we're basing this on just the default vanilla aircraft at this time, some work is certainly still to be done. X-Plane 11 aircraft are functional, and you can certainly get a lot of simulated enjoyment out of them. Other aircraft, like the 747-100, which are ports of older X-Plane vehicles however, do lack a little more in terms of system depth, or the KC-10 tanker, which just doesn't have a cockpit at all. Perhaps this is a little mean to go back and compare these older ported aircraft with the newer Cessna 172 and Boeing 737 models, but if they are included, we certainly must count them. P3D comes with a wide range of offerings from Lockheed Martin themselves to some of our favourite third-party developers such as Coronado and Just Flight. This gives us the classic pay-aware zing we like with fully functional aircraft and small system extras that we just cannot fault, and again being a training platform, it is certainly the level of quality you'd expect for such a simulator. Old X-Plane ports aside, if we were to compare the best of the best from each platform, then I would certainly put X-Plane and P3D very close to one another, with Microsoft Flight Simulator right now somewhere behind the two, and therefore they will share the points of this round. Now we come on to the world scenery. P3D uses a system of ground class tiles to generate its virtual world. That means it will pull the world geometry and place a scenery tile on the ground where it thinks it belongs. While this is a good way of keeping scenery sizes small, you do lose a lot of real world features, bar a few small areas where things have been hand placed. X-Plane 11 released in late 2016 and wowed us all away with how good it looked. All of a sudden, OpenStreetMap data was being used to generate the world below, and that meant features like roads, cities and buildings, everything was in their correct real-world location. No platform had done this before, and we were certain that it would be a long time until another simulator came and surpassed all of this. Then comes Microsoft Flight Simulator with its worldwide Bing Maps coverage and Azure AI generated AutoGen. When I say that this is the best looking simulator right now on the market, nobody will disagree. Microsoft, being the powerhouse they are, jumped right in and conquered the scenery side of the platform, completely transforming the way we fly and making VFR much more viable than what other sims could muster. You then have the photogrammetry areas as well that use 3D drone and satellite scans to recreate entire cities with 3D buildings exactly where they would be in real life, A high-load for ground mesh underneath just completes what's a fantastic looking platform. Let's go one step further now and have a look at the airports that this has to offer. P3D airports are based on an old technology that was implemented in FS2020. This used an old airports database to generate the basic airport layout and buildings, leaving little else for imagination. This implementation is certainly aged, and with future versions of the sim, an update would certainly be appreciated. X-Plane employed a similar system for default airports when it first came out, but then opened this up for the community through the Scenery Gateway. This meant that people could manually edit each airport and upload them to the master X-Plane server, which would update this scenery for everybody. This means that details such as taxiway changes and new terminals and other things that change over time can now be added with ease, with tens of thousands of airports now having handmade treatments made to them. This means that the simulator is being forever kept up to date and at a scale that one team on their own could not muster. Microsoft Flight Simulator uses Azure AI with a bit of human help to create its airports. While not perfect, it means that airport layouts do follow their real-world counterparts, but outside of the selected handmade airports that are included, certain details such as taxiway and gate numbers are automatically generated and therefore don't follow their real-world counterparts. Unlike the previous two sims, however, airports in this do come to life with ground crews and more specialist services at hand to populate where you fly to and from. Being the first platform to do this by default, it certainly adds an element of life that no other platform has done before, and is certainly a welcomed addition. On this occasion, I will share the points between X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator, as while they employ different techniques, both of them work rather effectively at what they do. Next up, the sky environment. X-Plane 11 does a fantastic job of its colours and weather simulation. In terms of how the sky looks and how the ground looks from the air, it does a great job in balancing lighting and colours, close to what you'd see in real life. Clouds, however, are not volumetric, instead using a series of flat textures and fog-like layers to generate different cloud coverings. While this is a good simulation, the feeling of it could perhaps be improved and upgraded in future generations of the platform. P3D employs true sky clouds that we last saw with Dovetail Games' Flight Sim World. That means full 3D volumetric clouds that populate the world, and certainly not bad looking ones at that. This means flying through clouds in different weather patterns do look rather good, and certainly not too dissimilar to what you get in real life. Microsoft Flight Simulator, however, takes the crown with this thanks to its beautiful system in place that gives you multiple layers of stunning 3D clouds, simulated environmental impact of each layer, and light refraction and darkening that hits multiple layers of clouds. The atmosphere throughout different times of the year, the colours of the sky depending on certain weather conditions and time, and just everything else is beautiful to look at, easily giving it our top spots. Now we come on to the night environment. P3D is a massive improvement over its predecessor FSX in terms of how the world looks at night. It has 3D dynamic lights that it can spot in the air, and smaller details such as traffic lights at intersections. Given that the map tiles don't follow real world layouts, however, you do lose that effect of real life when flying over areas that you know. X-Plane 11 uses its OSM data to place 3D volumetric lights in real world locations, with smaller details such as traffic lights, police car sirens and buildings filling up the rest. It is also by far the best of the three platforms at rendering lights at airports, with dynamic effects covering the grounds, aircraft and any vehicles that come by, making this very much a worthy sim to enjoy in the dark. If it misses out on anything, that would be the draw distance, which was limited a few updates ago to help run all the hardware. There are mods out there that unlocks this again back to its original form. Microsoft Flight Simulator, however, just comes out on top with its rendering lights within cities from all different altitudes, including the haze of lights you see from a cruising jetliner. Once again, the way that the platform manages its lighting environments is just truly beautiful, and I cannot wait to see where it will go in further updates once optimization becomes stronger. MSFS wins this round. O stability. That bit where you cruise for 7 hours, reach your final approach, and then it all goes up from there. Microsoft Flight Simulator has certainly had a bit of a shaky start on some lower end hardware, and on long hauls with a slowdown that some people put to a memory leak. It is certainly not all bad, as I can attest to, and you can definitely get long haul flights in with minimal issue. Asobo 2 have taken a lot of time to improve things as the simulator becomes more accessible to more people. It is ever improving, but just not quite there yet. After turning to 64 bits, P3D has seen a massive improvement with how stable it runs, with fewer crashes desktops now than it ever has been before. Again, not perfect thanks to some ancient code that is still in use today, but slowly things are improving as new versions of the sim are released. X-Plane though takes the king spot for running almost spotlessly for a lot of its user base. With implementation of the 20 FPS limits, it also means that things can start to slow down if the world has become a little more hefty. Smooth as pie, X-Plane wins this round. Mods now. Microsoft Flight Simulator is still very early in its release cycle and therefore very limited in what it can do. Teams like Fly-by-Wire, Working Title, Salty Simulations and Hangar 9 are all working on freeware modifications for default jetliners, while a number of payware scenery and GA solutions are also becoming available. But right now, there is still a large gap that is to be filled, and that will certainly come once the SDK is more mature. X-Plane 11 has seen a lot of work with its modding scene thanks to teams such as ZyboMod, Tolis, Inibills and FlyJSim really kicking things up a notch with the quality of aircraft that they release. Systems wise, they are also always improving modelling in small details that really start to stand out. You cannot deny, however, that P3D takes the king spot with flight sim legends such as PMDG, FS Labs and Quality Wings always improving their portfolio with higher and higher quality aircraft and smaller functions that slowly become available thanks to the implementation of outside scenery tools. Mods such as GSX also trump that of any other platform alternatives, and in a lot of cases, the scenery improvements you get in default to modded in P3D is on such a large scale that you can't always get around all of it. X-Plane may be good, but right now P3D is certainly better. Based on what we've already seen though, that's not to say that in a year's time, Microsoft Flight Simulator won't be in there with a chance of taking over. Now we take a look at the extra features that each platform comes with. Microsoft Flight Simulator gives you lots in regards to eye candy and camera tools with Drone Cam. You can certainly pull off some fantastic cinematic scenes with this, which are just incomparable with other platforms. Depth of field can also be utilised to create a grander scale of what you're looking at. P3D comes with a series of trainer tools and functions that you won't necessarily use at home, but in a business environment, I'm certain will see some use. It also has a basic enough replay tool that allows you to review what you've previously done. X-Plane, however, once again stands on top with a greater level of detail in showcasing its flight dynamics, a sturdy replay tool that works head above shoulders the smoothest, and the in-flight map with the most amount of detail in regards to where you're flying and how. Arguably the most important aspects of any flight simulator, we now take a look at the flight dynamics of each platform. P3D uses a series of data tables to calculate how each aircraft flies, numerically by inputting its limitations and movement forces. While an in-depth enough table can certainly get you a lot out of how an aircraft flies, just look at DCS World for example, the age of the platform does start to hit a few limitations, and therefore, in some cases, running on rails, as most people would call it. While not terrible, you do miss out on some aspects of flights. MSFS improves on this with a data table wing simulation hybrid. Limitations are still numerical, but the level of detail this covers is much greater. The number of calculation points on each part of the aircraft is also greatly improved, giving you that extra bit of detail and extra bit of fidelity with how each aircraft flies. As a result, you feel turbulence a lot more, especially through storms and drafts around mountain ranges. X-Plane, however, is still king when it comes to how aircraft feels when it flies. It uses a system called blade element theory, in which it will simulate the airflow that goes around the aircraft when in flight. Like a winged tunnel calculating the aerodynamics of an object, the simulator will take the shape of your aeroplane and bends the airflow around it to create a very realistic flight dynamic. Small differences in the air, such as mountain drafts and thermals, can also very much affect your flight. X-Plane's method of flying is as close to perfect as you can get on a home computer simulation. Finally, we come onto the spec requirements of each platform. Prepared being the oldest of the platforms per se, with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2000 ESP code still looming, does not require the most strongest systems to run. Whether or not you're going to be running on maximum graphics settings is another question, but your hardware doesn't quite have to be up to scratch in order to run this. On the other end of the scale, Microsoft Flight Simulator does require a modern spec PC to run, otherwise you're not going to have a good time. Being the newest of the platforms, it does make use of a lot of modern tech that P3D and X-Plane just cannot reach, but if you want to avoid lowering your graphics settings too much, you may still need to step things up a notch, which may come at a pretty penny. It does get bonus points, however, for soon being the first fully fledged flight simulator to appear on home consoles, giving more people than ever access to this kind of platform. Now we come to X-Plane, which is very easy to run on both older and newer hardware alike thanks to the implementation of Vulkan. It is also compatible with Linux and Mac, meaning unlike the other two platforms, you're not limited to just Windows hardware if that's what you prefer. While on an older CPU you may lack in a lot of calculations, you certainly won't have a bad time with X-Plane if you do need to drag a slider or two down. X-Plane's ease of run and Microsoft Flight Simulator's open console availability does mean I will probably share the points between the two for this round. So there we have it, a very mixed board overall. Microsoft Flight Simulator certainly dominates in the scenery side of things, while X-Plane 11's customizability allows it to keep up with the race. P3D, while being the older platform, is certainly respectable, especially in regards to how aircraft operates, but it is slowly losing its one-on-one race with X-Plane as it slowly now tries to play catch-up. It's not to say that any of these are bad platforms, of course not. A lot of people, for example, still use FS2004 because that is their go-to choice of platform. You may enjoy one over the other, and that's not a bad thing at all. I'm sure too that if I did another video in a year's time, with a more established Microsoft Flight Simulator, and potentially a new version of P3D and whatever laminar research is on the drawing board, you may also see a very different race. Once again, you may also disagree with something I may have said in this, and have a very different opinion to which I have, which is something I would very much like to hear in the comments below. I hope you found this video helpful in comparing the different flight sims out there, and if you did, please consider liking and sharing too, as it would be interesting to see what other people out there also have to say about this. Once again, thank you very much for the great amount of support you've shown me recently, as this is always greatly appreciated. Take care, keep well, and have a good one. Merry Christmas.